a number of things coming out of this. Clearly, we are looking at a sector that has good growth prospects going forward. The subtleties within the sector, though, are becoming increasingly interesting. We have lots of luxury CEOs sitting in the chair that you're sitting in. We talked to Hunter this week. We talked to LVMH recently. All of these companies are telling us roughly the same thing. Digital is a growing part of their business. They're still trying to figure out how to use it. And what's interesting is that most of them still don't see it as a channel to sell, but they see it as a channel to communicate. How is that going to evolve, though?
Yeah. So, as you said in your opening, actually we're quite positive about the fact that luxury will be structurally growing. But actually the set of capabilities required to a luxury brand to grow will be quite diverse from the past decade. On many dimensions, and digital will be indeed one of them. So when we talk about digital, the most obvious things are about sales that are, let's say, done online, and this for the sector accounts 7% of the total luxury turnover, then of course with differences on subcategory and brand. But what is important to recognize, that is just the top of the iceberg. Because when we look at sales that are digital influenced, we go up to 50–60% on category, depending on category. What we mean by digital influenced? So we mean sales that maybe are started online, where people get influenced in the choice of the brand and they start pre-selecting the product, but then the final transaction is actually still happening in the store.
Yeah.
But again, being able to engage both in terms of CRM and in terms also of consistency with pricing with this customer that does not see anymore a digital as a separate channel, but see it as an integrated way for the brand to express itself, going to be quite key for the success of the brand going forward.
So that you've just described exactly what Asprey's CEO said to us earlier on this week. That's exactly how he sees his business. It's part of a communication with a customer base that is relatively small. They still want to come in and touch the physical.
Yep.
If you look at what, say, a Burberry is doing, much more digitally integrated, like the show this week, you can now buy the music on iTunes.
Yep.
Angela Ahrendts is going to Apple. Kind of, is Burberry's model the future, or are we going to continue to see companies such as Asprey's just continuing to do what they're doing? Are we seeing an evolution, or have we got to the point where we understand kind of for the super high-end hard luxury companies how they're going to do business?
Yeah, so Burberry clearly pushed the envelope of the digital to the next frontier, and definitely there is a space for making a competitive advantage out of that. But that is not the only recipe. For instance, in our study, where we surveyed 40,000 luxury consumers across the globe, clearly we saw that one recipe does not fit all.
Yeah.
So while for younger generation, what we call the X and Z generation, digital is very appealing, and they're also willing to have digital immersion within the store, so kind of augmented reality like Burberry is doing, showing 3D catwalk and within the store. When we go instead to consider what is really appealing to more senior and baby boomer generation in Europe, they're much more willing to engage with a small and a kind of VIP room environment when it comes to store experience. So again, there won't be only a recipe to digital. It's very important to segment your customer base, to recognize what it takes to win in your specific segment,
right,
and to use digital not as a credo, but as a specific commercial lever to succeed in your segment.
And as the generations change,
yep,
presumably the digital impact story
yep,
is going to change as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Indeed, when we look at, for instance, a market like China or Korea, where the aspirational consumer in luxury, they tend to be quite younger than the average consumer in Europe, definitely also in terms of digital, they want to engage also in a two-way dialogue with the brand. So they want also to have the opportunity to have an impact on some area that typically were unidirectionally managed by a brand, like the collection. Like, for instance, if you think about the Art of the Trench, the site of Burberry allows the consumer to interact in choosing the color of the trench and the like. So an interaction from consumer that goes even to have an impact on the core aspect of a brand, that is the design, the collection, and the communication. And another very strong aspect of digital influence is their advocacy. More than 70% of consumers in the luxury space actually are active advocates. What do we mean by that? We mean people that spontaneously become ambassador of a brand.
Word of mouth. Yeah.
In a good, yeah, word of mouth. In a good or bad term. So being able to engage them in the proper way, we believe going to be very, very key for continuing capturing growth in the sector.